Chuck, in January, February, in Alabama, we see a lot of crepe myrtles pruned wrong.
Well, what they call it, crepe myrtle.
Crepe myrtle.
So,
why is that?
Well, I don't know. I think it's a practice not unique to here in this part of Alabama. It's all over everywhere, and I'm not sure how it started or when it started, but it's out there. And what we want to try to do today is to prune a younger crepe myrtle and show you how to train one when it's young, so when it's older that you don't have to get into that. And there's really no reason. There's no horticultural reason to come in and to cut off the top of a crepe myrtle like so many people do. Here's a case of one that was probably a nice sized big tree that was cut off just randomly at some height. And if you look at it, besides being wrong, it's not even a recommended horticultural practice. Think of the work that's involved. You've just cut down 2/3 or 3/4 of a tree, and you've got to deal with all of that brush and all of the limbs and the waste, and whether you have to carry it to the landfill or chip it or whatever. It just creates a tremendous amount of unneeded work.
So many crepe myrtles have so many great qualities. I mean, they have the beautiful flowering in the summer. Have the beautiful ornamental bark that peels a little bit, has a nice chestnut color. I mean, once you've seen a beautiful crepe myrtle, they're just absolutely gorgeous, and there's no reason actually to prune those. In January and February, people just get this eagerness to go prune them, and we're just not real sure why. So we want to talk a little bit today about pruning them the right way and the wrong way. In many cases, just leaving them alone.
Well, you're right about leaving them alone. One of the things that I think a lot of people don't realize is that a crepe myrtle is actually a small tree.
Correct.
And they actually range in size anywhere from mature size, from anywhere from about 4 feet all the way up to 35 feet. So I guess number one, it's important to choose the right crepe myrtle for the right place. If you want one on the corner of a house and it's a one-story house, don't choose one that gets 35 feet tall. So, and right here behind us, we've got a good example of some young crepe myrtles that have been planted for 4 or 5 years, and they need a little work, not much, but once we get through, we'll go in and show you how to properly shape these so that in the future you won't have to come in and do any really radical corrective pruning.
Before we actually start pruning this crepe myrtle, we're going to have to decide exactly what we want to do. One, let's decide if we actually need to prune or not. In this case, we got just a few minor things we want to correct. Keep in mind, crepe myrtles do not have to be pruned in order to flower. That's a myth. They will flower on their new growth. However, we got a few things here, Chuck, that we want to point out. First, we want to go ahead and select maybe 3 limbs. We've got 3 main trunks. We got a stem here that's actually crossing, growing in, and starting to cause an open wound. So we're actually going to take that out. As we look up through here, we also got a few small suckers, some crossing branches, and things like that. You want to sort of give it a good look and see what you want to take out and sort of envision what you want this crepe myrtle to look like after you've pruned.
We've decided that we'd like to keep 3 of these main trunks. This one I have my hand on now, it's the largest of the 3. And then the second one right behind it. And these are spaced out at a really nice angles. That naturally, they've grown that way. And so what we're going to do is take out anything that's conflicting or rubbing against them. So we're probably going to take out about 3 or 4 of these smaller ones. Shane's taking them out at the ground now. And this is going to be the largest one that we take out. And we might can get that one, Shane, with these big pruners here. Let me see if I can get this one. Now, we've got our 3 main branches left and our main structure that this tree will grow from in the future.
This provides a nice vase shape, plenty of space, and we're also thinking of maturity. As these crepe myrtles get larger, the girth and the width of those stems are going to increase 2, 3, 4, 5 inches over time. We don't want them actually growing into each other. We want them to be nicely spaced, and so they actually provide a good ornamental tray that looks real nice.
And one of the things too, Shane, we prune this to 3 main trunks, but you don't have to prune to 3. You can prune to 3, 4, 5, or maybe even a single trunk. And there's many beautiful examples of crepe myrtles that have been trained like a small tree to a single trunk.
Training is the key. You want to start very early when you plant these plants in the ground, start training, start choosing those stems, eliminating so much excessive growth. Training begins when planting, and over time, less and less pruning will be required. Once this crepe myrtle matures, we're basically going to leave it alone.
That's one of the beauties of a crepe myrtle tree. Once you get it shaped, when it's young, like what we're doing today, you might get it up where it's 10, 15 years old, you never have to prune it again, except for just coming in and thinning occasionally a dead branch or some crossing branches.
We've done a lot of thinning here in the middle and just sort of open that up. All your flowers are going to be on the outside edge. And so we're basically just looking for any kind of problem areas, any crossing branches. We basically eliminate that. We've got a lot of good space in here, and that's actually going to encourage more growth and more flowers. One final thing we may do to this crepe myrtle before we quit, and that would be sort of bringing some of the height down. We've very leggy growth. You know, it's not a requirement, but it actually might, if we bring it down and do a little bit of a heading cut with these, that's actually going to cause it to do a few more branching, and then actually more branching may involve a little bit more flowering in the summertime. So that's one thing, last thing we're going to do, Chuck.
Okay, so what we're going to do, pull this down. Now I'm going to cut this tall excessive growth out right here, and I'm cutting back to a branch, and so you see it doesn't even look like it's been pruned now. I've just reduced the height, and I've still left the integrity of the plant, of the tree there, without coming in and doing a radical topping of this plant. On this back one, I actually might take that one out right there. And then let's get this one right here.
And we were just really just shaping the tree.
That's all.
Just keeping it sort of in balance. Nothing drastic. We're not cutting it back down to eye level. You know, and this is going to encourage a few more branches to come in and out and to provide a good mature shape over time. So, you know, crepe myrtles are beautiful plants. You know, prune them very lightly, but basically, general rule, just leave them alone.
Yeah, I'll encourage people to also look at our website, which is www.aces.edu. We have publications on pruning crepe myrtles, and there's also an excellent publication from the University of Florida on pruning crepe myrtles that is available online from IFAS, Florida's website for extension.